Well, well, well. Interesting, well, is it not? Trump screws the market, man. It's like he's that kid. He's got his dummy in his mouth. It doesn't go his way. He spits out a tariff. I think this story with the tariffs is going to be a long problem for the marketplace. You see, the market kind of had it really good. I mean, this is the first time in 112 trading sessions that the S&P has corrected nearly 2% or just over. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. We were overdue a little bit of a retrace, but don't worry. Things are all good. We've even had upgrades. Analysts are coming in and saying, yeah, baby, let's just upgrade this target for this. I mean, would it be not wise to assume that maybe this move to the downside has been engineered for next week's data? Maybe CPI could be coming in a little bit lighter. Even Moslin today, he was talking about the fact that, yeah, inflation is a bit of a problem. We still want to get to our dual mandated target of 2%. The dip got very serious today for the marketplace. I don't usually trade on a Friday, but I opened a short on Nasdaq, and it paid off really well. I left a lot of money on the table, though. It always seems to be the case, but when you pay yourself, that's what you've got to do. And whatever happens, you'll never capture the full move. But if you can grab some of it and walk away, happy days. A lot of the Platinum members today were in the right direction. We absolutely ripped it apart. Bitcoin shorts, Ethereum shorts, Solana shorts, everything was violated today. But today was about people buying Bitcoin. Accumulation on the ETF across the board. They even bought some Bitcoin yesterday and today. So this dip right here is healthy. It's valid. Because what if some next week's data comes in and says that inflation has come down? Muslim said today that inflation, about 10% of it is tariffs. So it's not that bad. Let's break down this madness, ladies and gentlemen, and try and make sense of what's happened today. Because I know some of you are probably thinking, oh my God, well, if you bought Bitcoin at the all-time highs, then okay, you might have a little bit of a problem. But let's break down the logic, ladies and gentlemen, and then let you guys continue. I don't usually do this. Tino said, all good, I'm all in. This the shakeout before the shakeout before the last shakeout? Maybe, good old Jimmy boy. Let's go. Stocks. Absolute obliteration across the board. Oh my God. That was wild. It was a very interesting short. I started to open puts from around 25,330. And that was in line with my setup for the Platinum members today. And if you're not a Platinum member, you would have missed out on these trades. First one, Bitcoin. We expected Bitcoin to come in towards the initial balance, sweep towards the actual entry point of 122,137. What did we get? We got a very handsome, let's see, I have to expand the chart out. 122,558. That is not bad in my opinion. 122,137. And then we had 122,558. So you would have had about a $300 drawdown on Bitcoin, $300-400 nearly, but you would have made a stack and a bean. Target was, in essence, 118,865 was that target. And then, of course, Bitcoin just said, no, not interested in your silly target, Tino. We want more. And Bitcoin came all the way back down towards 115,988. Mad love to all the Bitcoin traders that took that today. Secondly, Ethereum. Very interesting. Wanted to see Ethereum come back into the green vector candle zone. We wanted to see 4,147. What did we get? We ended up getting $4,000, ladies and gentlemen. Absolute annihilation. The entry point itself was around the 4364 region, top side of it being 4393, and Ethereum made a stop run towards 4390. You can't complain about that. I mean, come on. That was a wild entry point. Bang, ripped to the downside. Next, Solana, same story. I only focused on three Bitcoin, Solana, and Ethereum today because they were going to bring the flavor. Green vector candle recovery point back into that 222.35 entry point on Solana. And Solana says, yes, please. Thank you very much. 222.32. Where is it? Where's Solana? There you go. 224.43. Can't complain about that. Minimal drawdown, $2 drawdown on that. Happy days. Rip to the downside. Target was 203.49. And we ended up seeing the target of we wanted 210. So they just ripped it even further. So a lot of the Platinum members made a stack of cash today. And the trade that I took was this one on the Nasdaq. Had the puts being built inside of this range around the 25,318 region. What Nasdaq had effectively done was give us the stop run to the upside. And then, of course, made the move to the downside. Look at that. Absolute annihilation. Stop run towards 23,389. We had an entry of 23,335, 23,354 were the entry points. But I opened puts today. I was favoring puts. I didn't want to trade it on the futures markets because I thought I'll be able to make a little bit of cash on the options market. And to be frank with you, I absolutely ripped this move apart and I didn't even take all of it either. I only managed to exploit towards the vector candle region, but we had a fantastic day on Nasdaq. Check this out. So overall, ladies and gentlemen, I finished the day net 58,010 pounds. But the last 2 days, well, yesterday's positions brings it to around 62,613. So we basically made 58K today, ladies and gentlemen, on those shorts right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, 15. 15 options. Entry was at 42 strike price and closed off at 300-ish. If I held on to the trade based on the way things were moving, it would have been around 150 to a 200K day on options. It is absolutely devastating. But ladies and gentlemen, I wasn't to know that it was going to continue to bleed. And I was in the puts when Donald Trump started to run his mouth. And we had a very good day. 62K, man. I can't, it's absolutely, I can't even do it now. Let me just bring it back up. There we go. 58,014 pounds sterling. Absolute mad day. Would have been a crazy day if I did hold on to the entry, ladies and gentlemen. Easy 200K on that because of the volatility with the options markets. But man, I closed off here. If that move was 50K, right? This move would have been another 50K. This move would have been another 50K. Easy 150K day on options, man. Absolutely wild. And that all happened, and this is the crazy thing. That happened right here, ladies and gentlemen. On the 1 minute candle, it probably took about let's be honest now. Took about 15 minutes for that whole play to come into action. It was just crazy watching it. And when Trump spoke and said what he said on Truth Social about the tariffs, ladies and gentlemen, it's just completely wiped everyone out. It's called the tariff rug pull. What an absolute shock that was. But now let's get to the flavor. Okay, we made a bit of cash today. Cool. Now let's try and work out how we can make some more. Let's check this out. Bitcoin. Bitcoin has taken a significant bleed to the downside, and what we need to do is go onto the 1 hour time frame to understand where we are. So look left, right. What have we got? Vector candle recovery region. You see, the reason why I was calling for Bitcoin and everything to come down today was because Ethereum had already made its way towards the vector candle recovery region. It was near enough close towards it. Solana was also in the same boat. Okay, I wanted to see a stop run and then a reversal to the downside. We got that. But Bitcoin was the only one that wasn't doing it. It was furthest away from the vector, okay? So that told me that Bitcoin was leading, and in line with Bitcoin dominance, you can appreciate that, yeah, Bitcoin was outperforming Ethereum and Solana technically because it hadn't moved down to the vector candle regions, all right? But in the end, they did it. Now, this is all because of what Trump has said about China. That's the problem we've got. Now, with that being said, going into the article, talking about tariff rug pull and the fact that he's not even going to meet Xi Jinping, he's not going to speak to him at all. It's now put us back into the tariff macro. So now the market is going to be anticipating what's going to happen next. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we need to go over to a little chart that does pay homage to focus on it. The volatility index has shot up, ladies and gentlemen. My logic is this. This is in preparation for CPI. I actually believe that CPI is going to come in a little bit lower. It's going to give us a surprise reading. That's how they move the markets. All week, they know about the CPI data. They know when it's going to come out. Why have they waited till today to make the move? What, they just used Donald Trump? What about that trader? He's absolutely smacked it. He's ripped it apart and made a killing on both Ethereum and Bitcoin. The whale. And everyone's like, why would he tell anyone anything? You've got to remember, 80 million, right? And then he opened the position. I think it was about 8, 9, 10 million. And then he used the leverage. Okay. So obviously amplifies that. But when you think about it, $80 million or whatever amount of leverage he used is insignificant when you're looking at the bigger picture of leverage in the marketplace. Let me explain. Look at this. You've got on the heat map, this right here is open interest. There's $716 million worth of open interest that has just been violated right here. Okay. So all these traders right now are trapped. They're screwed. They're all going to be hoping for a reversal. This retrace in line with the VIX could be an opportunity to grab hold of this dip and then trade the retrace. So if the market is actually going to continue to the downside, you're going to want to try and take advantage of fading the rally. Let me explain. Go back into Bitcoin. Put it into perspective. Go to the higher time frames, daily. Look at what you got. Come on, man. You can't complain about that. It's just gone back into the blue vector candle region and it's given us a red vector candle zone. Okay? Now, what you got to look at is the 50 EMA going to sustain itself? Because right now, Bitcoin has turned up into a very interesting block. This block right here could be the proof that Bitcoin could bounce from these regions. Let's go to the order flow. I see a lot of buying. Buying, buying, buying. Look at that. Buying, buying. Like, well, look at that zone, man. Unbelievable. So let me just refresh this because it hasn't given me the full figure here. Hold on. Are we in a bear market? Wait. It's not a bear market just yet. Okay. Japan haven't increased the interest rates. It's not a full bear market. Look at this. Come on. It does this to me every single time. Look at this. Here we go. Right. Let's have a look at who's been buying. So 5 million at 116,182. Scroll up. 9 million at 116,600 when the initial order was for $1 million. All right. Keep going up. 25 million was transacted when the initial order was 38 million, 117,222. Go up a little bit more. You got 7 million right there. Go up a bit more. 27 million at 118,000. Go up a bit more. 4 million at 117,700. 3 million, 6 million. Another 4 million net, 3.6. Keep going. 1.5, 3.5, 35 million, 42 million. These were the levels that we marked off this morning for you guys. Okay. 40 million right there, 119,788. Go and watch this morning's live stream because we mentioned these levels. So they're buying. Is now a time to panic? Well, it all depends on your motivation and what the duration of holding is going to do for you. That means the following. If you look at Bitcoin's price action right now, you've got this red vector candle. It's broken into the blue vector candle region itself. Okay. Now, at any point, well, not really any point, but quite frankly, there's two levels on the daily that Bitcoin initially should be reacting from. The first one is the top side of the vector block, which is at 118,598. The next range is down here. Okay. Now, this is where Bitcoin should, in principle, react. It will react aggressively either at the 114,000 to do a V-shaped split, or it's going to bounce at the midpoint. Look, is there any particular reason why Bitcoin has bounced at the midpoint of the vector candle? That's the midpoint of the vector, taking the vector high, taking the vector low, ignoring the wicks. Okay. You're taking the vector candle block. Now, what you've got to try and work out is, if you're going to try and take advantage of Bitcoin from this level, you've got to wait until the next daily candle opens to see if they're going to try and fully recover this wick. Now, remember, October and all that stuff, like seasonality-wise, we were pending a negative day. Okay? Well, you had your negative day. Is October going to continue? Because right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are on the 10th. We should have been up, but we were down. But yesterday, we were up. Now we're down. Logic says that for the rest of the month, in principle, up until the 17th, we should be seeing a recovery. Okay? Because it trades really well, seasonality-wise. Over the last 30 years, it sells off at the start of the month and then starts to rally and picks up gains. And then towards the end of the month, it does really well. So this retrace was needed, which means when you add it all up with Bitcoin tapping this midpoint, remember what I said a minute ago about the idea of buying for a duration of time. If you're going to start buying in this area, aim to try and achieve a spot trade of around $5,000 to $6,000 in Bitcoin's movement. So if you're going to go in at 116,000, try and trade all the way back up towards 121,000, okay? Or maybe 115,000, let's say it goes down to 114,000, and you can trade it back up to 119,000 or 120,000. The whole point of it is to try and exploit movement, because if the bigger picture suggests that Bitcoin's on the way down, then holding on to Bitcoin doesn't serve you, does it? No, because you're just seeing the loss of value in Bitcoin. So what does serve you? Jumping in and out of spot so that you can accumulate the capital so that when Bitcoin does prepare itself to start working its trajectory back up, you can then go spot and then you can ride the rally to the upside. Remember, DCA itself is on the premise that we are in a bull run. And looking at the way Bitcoin's behaving, you cannot complain about the fact that it's done exactly the same thing as it's done over here. But this time, it's testing the 50 EMA. Structurally, it's doing very well to hold at these levels. If it does invalidate the 114,000, then of course we're going to have a little bit of an issue, but Bitcoin will be going back into the same zones that everyone was screaming to buy Bitcoin at, because this is what you call buying the dip. And that would be at 107. Okay? With that being said, go into the weekly time frame. They've recovered the green vector candle zone on the weekly. They've recovered it. Now is the point where we understand if they are going to reverse. Go to the weekly. Pull off the green vector candle block. Where's the midpoint? Take the vector candle high. Vector candle low. Shock. There we go. Okay. Ish. That's the midpoint of this green vector candle on the weekly. So you've effectively got from 117,822, and you've effectively got the bottom side of this range right here, 115,000. So you've got yourself a little bit of about a $2.5 range to establish whether Bitcoin can actually sustain itself at this level to try and reverse. I believe that CPI data next week, because you've got a bank holiday on the Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Look, bank holiday on Monday, right? Then you got Powell speaking. And then you've got the CPI data coming out. Oh, no. Yeah, core PPI. But CPI has been revoked. Sorry, they did say today that they were going to actually pull the data out. Yes, they did say. Yeah. They did put a post out saying that they were going to bring back the actual data for the non-farm. And then they've retracted on that as well. So government shutdown is still a bit of a problem. Okay. So we're only going to be getting the core PPI, yeah, and unemployment claims. Again, like 2 weeks into the US government, we did say that 2-week period would cost the government $5.6 billion, and that is 0.1 to 0.2% on the actual GDP. So it's not going to hurt the US government or the US economy if it does stay shut for the full 2 weeks, and that will take us to the 16th of October, okay? So it's not a problem. And you might think it is, but it isn't. But there's going to be a lot of layoffs, and a lot of people are not happy about that. And that's why the market's thinking, okay, more layoffs, bump up the unemployment claims, increase the odds of what? Interest rate decreases. But the thing you got to be careful of is this guy down here, the yen. It's moved up 1% today, ladies and gentlemen. The yen has moved up 1%. And that is very interesting, because if the yen can keep on marking up, I mean, of course, we've narrowly missed it. We've narrowly missed the idea that dollar yen, given that it has pulled back aggressively from these highs, that's good news for the Japanese, big time. Why? Because that means they don't need to do Forex intervention. But that also means that they are going to probably try and increase the interest rates, because their inflation is still a bit of an issue. Let's see if there's proof in that actual move for the Japanese yen. 10-year yield, no good. Still no good. It's up 0.24%, and the 10-year bonds of the Japanese are only trading, they're trading negative. That right there tells you that they've gone into the safe haven of the yen, holding the currency, not even going over to the bond itself. That is shocking. You're generating a yield by going into the Japanese yen of 1.695, and that's still not enough for them. That shows you that investors still do not care about what Japan is planning on doing. They don't trust the government when it comes to managing finances, because if they're going into the yen itself, they're going into a safe haven, and depending on the value of it. Why? Because you can buy a whole load of yen and earn off the value of the yen. However, if you're not going to the bond itself, you've got a problem. The yield is up, and that just solidifies that they're not confident with the government of Japan when it comes to finances. That's going to be the reason why they would increase the interest rate. I'm telling you, they're going to increase the interest rates, and it's going to be another smack to the downside if participants are heavily invested in dollars, because the dollar itself, I mean, it's going to have every reason to come back down. You got a gap down here at 97, and that's a problem. Big problem. But the star of the show is gold. Gold's done well. Came back up nicely. Did we project gold today? Yes, we did. I think we did. Yes, we did. There we go. Gold set up. Want to see it come down to try and take a little bit of a spike to the upside. Didn't quite make that much of a big move. Well, they actually blew out from the Asian session high right there, and they came back into the red vector candle zone. So, yeah, that actually worked out nicely. Happy days. And gold and silver still going. If silver and gold keep on climbing up, then everybody is concerned. Commodities going up. Investors are scared. Go over to NVIDIA. Can't complain. It's been at its all-time highs. And you know what? That vector candle is going to get recovered. So NVIDIA's going to only go back up again. Because why? Why is everything pulled back? You know another reason why? Because it's earnings next week. Earnings, man. You ain't going to be buying now at the highs. Bring it down. You can't tell me that Donald Trump goes and invests. He's made 80% return from investing in Intel, right? 80% return, buys a 10% stake in Intel. And then, of course, the story with NVIDIA coming into play with Intel as well. That's just inflating the value of Intel. He's made a stack of cash, 80% return since he brought that stock. Okay? Now, you can't tell me that this market ain't being played to the favor of Trump. Come on. Or to the favor of whoever. This dip is not a problem. It really isn't. The volatility index has shot up above 20. And with the volatility index going so aggressively to the upside, given that the volatility index hasn't really been moving, this logic right here suggests that we are bound for a nice little snapback. So they've hedged themselves. So going into next week, we get the data. It suggests that CPI's come down, or inflation's come down as such, or PPI, should I say. And then we get earnings next week. Banks are declaring their earnings next week. TSM, ASML, all right? All the big tech companies are declaring their earnings. This will just shoot back down. Everything will come back up by the dip. That's the logic. But for cryptocurrency, it's a little bit tricky because Bitcoin can continue to drop down until that point. But if Bitcoin's going to sustain itself, you know the levels that you need to be paying attention to. I'm starving, bro. I'm starving. I'm actually starving. That's the truth. I'm very, very hungry. Any other questions? Have we got any questions, guys? He's covering up the market data using shutdown as a reason. Well, look, how many of you actually cheesed off with crypto? Come on. How many of you actually cheesed off with crypto? Give me your flavor. I bought more spot coins. The bid ask on silver is the highest ever. Wake up. This is true. It is true. It's the highest. Silver is up its highest in 40 years. Wow. Circle. Let's have a look at Circle. Let's have a look at everything. Circle. It's just gone back down to entries. Where's my position? I'm $100 profit on... No, $2 profit on Circle. Bullish has taken a smack. I need to put my VPN on. But yeah, we're in a bit of a drawdown. Not a drawdown on Circle. We're in a drawdown on Bullish. Never mind. Let's have a look at Bullish. Bullish is taking a bit of a smack. Yeah, a little bit of a smack. But this is the first day that the stock market has dropped and corrected 1% and more. I mean, come on, man. I mean, we were due a pullback. Flipping hell, man. That is not a pullback. That is like a flipping circumcision in the marketplace. Jesus, man. Sometimes you can't expect. Look, I expected that prices were going to pull back today, man. That's why the setups were the setups today. All right. But for God's sake, man, that's why I had one target there and that target there. But man, completely ripping it so badly. I'm just going to go to bed and sleep like a baby tonight. I'm going to cry every 2 hours, wake up and cry every 2 hours because it would have been a crazy day. But never mind. Never mind. Never mind. What do you think about the big bearish divergence on Bitcoin on the weekly RSI and price? Look, man, the weekly divergence on Bitcoin, okay, cool. If you've got divergence, I mean, I don't really trade divergence. I trade delta divergence, yes. Price divergence and all that, you know, in relative to volume as such, it's, yeah, you can appreciate that. The green vector candle here is not going anywhere is one of the clues by the hybrid system, okay? And if you are new and you are new to this live stream, get to the Traders Reality website where you just go to the homepage and you'll be able to take advantage of the hybrid system and install it free of charge. This is the Platinum members section. This is where I put trade setups. These were today's trade setups per se. And I took the trade setup on Nasdaq, which was this one right here. And for anyone that is new passing through, I don't want to show it again, but fuck it, we've got to do it. This was today's place, £58,000. And that was trading options using the hybrid system. And all we did was just trade back into the logic of the vectors, which is what the Nasdaq had right there. This is what I mean about trading the Nasdaq, okay? Topping out, little M formation, initial balance. If they hit the highs, you get stopped out, you get stopped out. So what? Okay, next trade. But they had come back down and ripped it to the downside, hit those targets, happy days, okay? So we did good on that. But if you want more on that, go to the Traders Reality website. Everything you need to start off is on the homepage. And then, of course, you want to become a Platinum member, just go through the tabs at the top where it says join. Now, he said ETH is dead. Who said ETH is dead? Ethereum's not really dead, man. It's just pull back a little bit. Come on. I mean, we do have a little bit of a vector candle zone right there. They can easily recover this whole thing, ladies and gentlemen, and it will still be good because Ethereum, see, look, this is where it gets interesting, okay? If we look at Ethereum, there's the 50 EMA. Look at Bitcoin, there's the 50 EMA. Look at Solana, there's the 50 EMA, okay? Out of the three, Bitcoin is doing a little bit more better, in my opinion. Still above the 5 and 13 EMA. Ethereum on the weekly has broken the 5 and 13 EMA, right? Solana has actually stayed within the 13 EMA and the 5 EMA, which are these yellow moving averages. This is on a higher time frame, all right? So out of the three, who's got the more underlying strength? It's Bitcoin. That marries up to the idea of the dominance trying to come back up. People say to me, it's never going to go back to high dominance. Yes, it will. It's going to go back up. Minimum 62, max 64. Bitcoin dominance is going to eat that. It's going to enjoy that vector. You might not like to hear it. Probably don't. That's why you got to trade other assets. You got to trade Nasdaq. You got to trade oil. You got to trade S&P. Trade other assets to protect yourself. Do that on BTCC. You can trade all those assets and stocks. You can trade it all. All right? But you've got to have variation in the way you approach these assets. Guys in crypto are stuck in crypto. And that's the problem. You wanted Wall Street, they came in. And you're still just trading crypto. Now, I get it. If you can't trade any other assets and what have you, I get all of that. But you've got to diversify your ability as a trader. You've got to learn to trade other assets. Today was a bit of a fluke in the sense where everything came down because it was triggered by Donald Trump, okay? But usually, Nasdaq can shoot up and Bitcoin goes nowhere. And then you're there scratching your head thinking, oh, why isn't Bitcoin moving? It's boring day to day. You go over to Nasdaq and you see it's just shot up like 1-2%. Always have that ability to go and trade elsewhere. Don't be married to one asset class. I trade Nasdaq because it guarantees me movement. Guarantees it. Okay? I like movement. I only trade movement. I don't trade bias. I don't trade price. I trade movement. I don't care if Bitcoin can't get above one zone or this price. It has to stay above this and that. Irrelevant to me. For me, it's movement. And with behind movement comes the liquidity. And that's what everybody wants. They want the liquidity. Quickly going into liquidity, let's just go and have a look at the Bitcoin ETF. How's that done today? It's fine. 804,000. Still at all-time highs on the ETF balance. What's going on here? Yeah, they're just maneuvering Bitcoin. That's nothing new. Even are they even bought 11 million? Yeah, no. So yeah, just 11 Bitcoin was purchased. So nothing to be too concerned about. Nothing to be concerned about. You needed this candlestick because look, let's take this as an example. Everyone was wetting the bed when this was happening with Bitcoin. Ah, that's it. Now the high is in, it's done, right? And then for 3 whole weeks, it was dropping. You got one negative candle for the week. That's it. One. And everyone's losing their brains. All right, it could come all the way down to 114,000. Still, structurally, if Bitcoin stays above the 107,000, you're all good. Structurally. Because guess what we got next week or so? Couple of weeks. Good old FOMC. Let's have a look at that. 96.7%. You're in an easing cycle. And you're getting a little bit upset about Bitcoin pulling back. Money is getting cheaper, ladies and gentlemen. You don't need to worry about it. This is the name of the game. Bitcoin, yeah, BTCC does have Nasdaq. It's called Tech 100. All you got to do is click that, go down, and it is... I haven't favorited it. There you go. Tech 100 USDT. That's what it is. Okay. Cool. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Have you liked the live? Have you seen the screen at the back? Have you seen the screen? If you can read it, you know what to do. Any other questions? Matthew, pick Amsterdam. It works. On the W chart, on the weekly, flipping Altino. On the weekly chart, Bitcoin dominance have recovered half a vector. Why it need to go there again? Because what created that in the first place? You know, people were shifting out of altcoins as such, and they were maneuvering. Because what you've got to also understand is this. Is Bitcoin dominance only because players are getting rid of their Bitcoin and going into altcoins? No. It's not that. It's not that anymore. Some of you might be like, you don't know what you're talking about, Tino. Well, just understand something. Bitcoin dominance, the conventional wisdom was when Bitcoin dominance is down, altcoin dominance comes up because they're selling their Bitcoin and going into altcoins. But now you've got Wall Street. Now Bitcoin dominance is about Bitcoin dominance going up. Wall Street is getting rid of assets elsewhere and going into higher risk assets like Bitcoin. Now, when Bitcoin dominance goes down, Wall Street is getting rid of their Bitcoin and going into other assets. So they rotate. Look at the stock market. Big caps, small caps. When money starts to go into small caps, that's a bit of a problem. It means that all the guys don't want to get involved in longer term value-based stocks that are pricey, big caps. They don't plan to hold them for longer periods of time. So they go over to the small caps and then they start to play around with the small caps to try and grab a few points every day. And when you've got that, it means that they're no longer favoring the longer term or the locking in of cash in the bigger caps because it takes the bigger caps a little bit longer to actually make gains, whereas small caps don't. It's the same thing with Bitcoin. But Wall Street is dominating it. So when Bitcoin dominance goes up, Wall Street's going in. This is my logic. But when Bitcoin dominance is going down, Wall Street's taking risk off from Bitcoin and going to risk elsewhere. That's why I believe Bitcoin's going to shoot back up in terms of dominance. Thoughts on Dogecoin over the next few weeks? Doge. Fucking Dogecoin's been a bit of a pain in the ass. Can't lie. A lot of accumulation in Dogecoin. A lot of accumulation. I believe that Doge will come back towards its highs. I do believe that it will. Most definitely. Easily. It just needs to start clearing out this liquidity up here. Needs to get back into that range. There's a lot of accumulation. It's found its floor, in my opinion. It's found the floor. So now we're going to be looking for Dogecoin to try and make claim back up to 48, in my opinion. What were the signals that told you today will be bearish? First things first, right? When I look at the hybrid system, I look for where vectors locally price could effectively go. And you have to consider the actual asset itself. Nasdaq can easily drop down that much anyways, okay? So I was looking at structure and I noticed that in the Asian session from the day before, they kept price very tight and they consolidated it, right? The initial reaction from that was rejection from the initial balance, which is the first hour of Tokyo, right? And they made that drop to the downside, right? They equally then made the reversal back up. They repeated the same behavior here. So I then said to myself, okay, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to recover back up this vector candle, sweep the high, take out Asia, make everybody believe the dip has been bought, and they're going to mark it higher. And then we're going to look to try and see price come back down to finalize the imbalance. Why? Because there's no one with a brain that's going to be buying stocks at these levels, especially up here. Not that close towards the all-time high. No chance. Looking at the order flow, what I could see was massive imbalances at the top side of the range where Nasdaq had effectively created this move. Go into it, go to the 5-minute time frame, and look what I'm talking about here. This right here, the Brinks, you notice it on the 1-hour time frame, was a wonderful green vector candle. And what do we say, ladies and gentlemen, in the Platinum membership? What do we say about the Brinks? Any vectors that are not recovered in the Brinks, let them recover them. That will give you the logic of what the day could be like. And that's what they did here. They swept the Asian session high, come so close towards the all-time high, trapped every breakout trader, hoping that it's going to continue, and then rip to the downside. That's where I open my positions. That's where the logic was for the play right there. Okay? It was a bid-ask game for me. That's what it was. Just not having that understanding. Can you please check XRP? Never mind. Why is it every time I pull up its price, it doesn't look like it hasn't moved? It's always around 26, 25, 29, 26, 25. Flipping stupid coin. They want it to go to $23. Absolute nut job. What are you talking about? Dead. Violet vector candle at the lows. Interesting. I don't know if he closed his trade. My question is, where did the Russian church emoji? Hey, Tino, bro, can I ask you a question? Why haven't you shaved your beard? I ain't shaving my... That's irrelevant. Because if I shave my beard, then I'll look like a virgin. I really would. I look about 15. That means retail is not here anymore, and the risk asset for the bigger players is only Bitcoin. There is only one left to play. There's no one left to play with alts. True. Bears don't like being shaved. Yes. Okay. Circle outlook. We see downside to reclaim the $115 vector. Listen, the play with Circle for me, ladies and gentlemen, is it's just partnership galore. You know, if you just not heard only yesterday that, well, I think it was today that big banks are actually now investigating and exploring stablecoins. Where do you think these big banks are going to go? They're going to Circle. They are going to Circle. Why? Well, they're not going to go to Tether now, are they? Chinese company. They're not interested in doing business there. That's not going to look good, is it? You don't think Trump's going to be sniffing down their throat if they're going to try and do business with Tether? They probably will be. But the majority of the business will be conducted with Circle, USDC. And they are the issuer of that. So get ready. You're going to hear about more partnerships with Circle. You will. It's a long-term play. Because once those partnerships come into play, that's earnings per share, dividend, dividend. All right? Still an early play with Circle. If you want to make serious money with Circle, don't aim to make it next week. No, you got to play the long game with it. You've got to play long game with it. Anyway. It's gone, Tino. Just disappeared. What disappeared? Why is the bear hidden? Don't worry about that. Because someone enlightened me with the T's haircut. Yo, guys, forget the haircut, man. How much do you need to see it going? For me, with Circle, ladies and gentlemen, it's simple. All right? Pull up Circle for you, and then we'll call it a day. Circle's base is down here at 109. These, for me, are buying ranges. Okay, between 150, 100, it's buying range. I said the same about 200, 150. Okay, so you know it's you're not the potential for this asset. Just look at its market cap, man. It's 30 billion and it's only just started. That's just gonna soar. Look how many funds are playing Circle now. What did I say to you all? Once we get above 120. Right, once we start seeing fund ownership coming into play, that's when we start playing Circle. 280 fund owners are playing it now, ladies and gentlemen. The interest is stepping in. Right? Just keep an eye out on it, man. That's all I'm saying. Anyways. Do you foresee going over the years? How high? Or however long cryptocurrency is going to function, Circle will as well. Unless there is a collapse in USDC, which is very unlikely. Do you see stock splits with Circle to any correlation to the stable coins issuance? I do believe that Circle, once it gets to a significant price, all right, there will be a stock split, all right? MicroStrategy did it at $1,400, about, 1,000, whatever it was. And NVIDIA did it at $1,400. And if NVIDIA's doing it, you can bet the house that Circle's going to do it. But I think Circle's price would have to actually trade up quite significantly for a good stock split. Market cap would need to be in the excess of around, just to get up to about $1 trillion in market cap. I really think that. And that's going to be a norm, ladies and gentlemen. They ain't going to be talking about the Magnificent 7 anymore. They're going to be saying the Magnificent 20, okay? The Mag 20. You know, that's where it's going to be, all right? My head is fried. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy yourselves. I hope tonight has served you. Hit the like button, subscribe. It's free to do. Check out tradersreality.com. Next week is a bank holiday on the Monday, so the markets will be closed. But as usual, I will be doing a live stream. Might be a bit of a quiet time. But go and enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your weekend. And I'll be catching up with you all on Monday. Mad love and respect. Today's been interesting, but hey. All right? Take care, gang. And I'm not going to shave my beard. Peace.